What's up, savvy expats? In this video, we're discussing how to open up a bank account in the Philippines and which expat-friendly banks to use. Alright, without wasting time, let's get into it. So let's start off with how to open up a bank account in the Philippines. So there's a few documents that you must have in order to apply for a bank account as a foreigner. And while it does depend on which branch you go to, most banks require that you present an ACR card, which stands for a Certificate of Registration Card. All foreign nationals holding an immigrant or non-immigrant visa who've been in the country for more than 59 days are required to apply for this ACR card. At this point, you may be wondering where you can apply for this ACR card. Well, you can apply for this ACR card at the main office of the Bureau of Immigration or at one of its field offices throughout the country. This card costs about $50 plus another $10 service fee, so that's about $60 in total. In some cases, you can open up a bank account without this card. It really depends on the situation, but it's highly suggested that you have it. Now, the second piece of documentation you'll need to present is a passport or other form of ID. Third, you'll need to present proof of address such as a utility bill or rental contract. Fourth, the bank will require a minimum deposit for the account to be opened. It depends on the bank in terms of the amount required, but for instance, the Philippine National Bank requires a minimum deposit of 3,000 pesos or $60. And this is for a debit savings account. And so to recap what you'll need, number 1, a Certificate of Registration Card or an ACR card. Number 2, a passport or any other form of photo ID. Number 3, proof of address like a utility bill or rental contract. And number 4, a minimum initial deposit, which depends on the bank. And that's it, you're already halfway done. The other half is choosing which bank you'll go with, so let's hop straight into that. So you can go with either an international bank or a national bank. For my family, we went with both. A few international banks include Citibank, HSBC, Bank of America, and Maybank. The most popular choice among expats in the Philippines is Citibank and HSBC. A few national banks of the Philippines include Union Bank, Philippine National Bank, BPO, BPI, RCBC, Metrobank, and Security Bank. As for us, we went with Citibank for an international bank and BPO for a national bank. Now that we got that established, let's dive into each individual bank, starting with Citibank. Citibank is the best international bank for Philippine expats. Factoring in the ease of applying, online banking, and ATM fees, Citibank is going to be the best choice for most of you. The application process is seamless, and so are its online banking services. This is especially important being that over-the-counter banking services in the Philippines can take a decade and a year. More importantly, Citibank offers free withdrawals from any ATM in the Philippines. So without Citibank, withdrawing money from any other ATM can really rack up in fees. In addition to the fees charged by your foreign bank, some Philippine banks charge at least 200 pesos or $4 per transaction. Not to mention, most other banks allow a withdrawal of $1,000 or 50,000 pesos. Meanwhile, Citibank allows withdrawals up to $3,000 or 150,000 pesos. And with Citibank being an international bank, if you have multiple accounts in different countries, you can transfer money from one account to another with no transaction fees. As for their minimum initial deposit to open up an account, that is $1,000 or 50,000 pesos. All in all, one of the best reasons to opt for Citibank is because there's no ATM withdrawal fees and it's many ATMs in the major parts of the Philippines. The next international bank on our list is HSBC, which stands for the Hong Kong and Shanghai Banking Corporation. While there isn't a minimum deposit requirement, you must submit proof of monthly salary. The minimum monthly salary required is 50,000 pesos or $1,000. In addition to that, HSBC doesn't charge any ATM withdrawal fees. When it comes to their maximum ATM withdrawal limit, we're talking 40,000 pesos or $800. And so, if you're looking for an international bank that you can use not only in the Philippines, but across Asia, HSBC is a considerable option. Now, moving on to a universal bank in the Philippines, we have Union Bank. Union Bank is the 10th largest bank in the Philippines by assets, and you can easily open up an account online. So if you don't want to have to go in person to submit your documents, you can do so online with Union Bank. Unfortunately, on the other hand, Union Bank has a smaller withdrawal limit than other banks at only 20,000 pesos or $400. When it comes to withdrawing cash from a Union Bank ATM, it's completely free. However, if you're withdrawing from a different bank's ATM, it'll cost you around 18 pesos or 32 cents. Union Bank also has no minimum initial deposit when opening up an account. Moving on to the next national bank in the Philippines, we have Banco de Oro or BDO. BDO is the largest bank in the Philippines by assets and has a minimum initial deposit of 2,000 pesos or $40. As for BDO's maximum withdrawal, that is 50,000 pesos or $1,000 per day. Their maximum withdrawal at ATMs is 25,000 pesos or $500 per transaction. And once again, just like the other ATMs, BDO has a withdrawal fee of 18 pesos or 32 cents. Another benefit of going with BDO is that they give you an option to open up an account outside of the Philippines. I haven't gotten to try that yet, so you guys should check it out for yourselves. Moving on to the next universal bank in this country, we have Bank of the Philippine Islands or BPI. This was the first bank in both the Philippines and in all of Southeast Asia. In terms of its assets, it's also the fourth largest bank in the Philippines. And if we're talking the minimum initial deposit, be prepared to pay 3,000 pesos or $60. BPI also has a relatively lower withdrawal rate at 20,000 pesos or $400. And over-the-counter cash withdrawals and deposits are free if it's in the branch of your account. If your deposit or withdrawal is in a different region of the Philippines, then you'll be charged a 50 peso service fee or $1 service fee, and also a 100 peso or $2 transaction fee. Now for the next universal bank in the Philippines, we have the Philippine National Bank or PNB. To open up a debit savings account with PNB, there's a minimum initial deposit of 3,000 pesos or $60. And if you decide to go with the basic savings deposit account, there's no minimum requirement balance and there's no minimum deposit. And just like the other banks we talked about, PNB has a 50,000 peso or $1,000 withdrawal limit. Moving on to the last bank we'll cover today, that is RCBC or the Rizal Commercial Banking Corporation. To open up an account with RCBC, there's a minimum initial deposit of $2 or 100 pesos for a basic savings account. As for opening up a regular savings account, there's a minimum deposit of $60 or 3,000 pesos. And when it comes to withdrawing from an RCBC ATM, there's no transaction fee. And when it comes to withdrawing from a different ATM, there's an 18 peso or 34-cent transaction fee. Now in terms of the withdrawal limit, that is 50,000 pesos or $1,000. And so those are just a few banks to use as an expat in the Philippines. There are other banks you can check out that we haven't mentioned, such as Maybank, Metrobank, and Security Bank. But of course, when it comes to opening up a bank account, you want to find the best bank for your goals. Some of you may be looking for a good savings account. Others may be looking for a good checking account, or even just a good account to connect with your PayPal. And so here are my recommendations based off of what I researched. The best bank to side with for a savings account is BPI or the Bank of the Philippine Islands. The best bank for a high-yielding savings account is Citibank. It's also the best bank for expats. The best bank for a checking account is the Philippine National Bank or PNB. The best bank for a time deposit is Security Bank. And lastly, the best bank to link with your PayPal is Union Bank. So there you have it, savvy expats. That is how you can open up a bank account in the Philippines and what banks you can use in this country. If there's anything I left out or you want to know more about, let me know in the comments. As always, if you got any value out of this video, be sure to like and subscribe. And so thank you for watching, savvy expats, and I'll see you in the next video. God bless.